Well, I should have known. What happens if you put a pair of clippers inside a bubble? The bubble's going to burst, and that's exactly what happened. How dare them? How dare them? I'm a human punching bag. I can take it. Punch away. Go ahead. Spar. Let's spar. In our production meeting before the show, I was pointing out, why did sports have to come back? Why we were done 134 days, and they came back just to stick a dagger right in my gut. Right in my gut, they got to stick a dagger. And it turns out the Clipper ship was made out of wood, and it hit an iceberg. All right, forget that the Titanic was the unsinkable ship. The Clippers, much like that's right. And I saw the iceberg. I didn't see it at first because it was mostly below the water, but it was shaped like a Denver nugget. Yeah, that's the iceberg that hit the Clipper ship as they sank. My God. Unreal. So, that's Chuck the Condor. He'll be here later. Now, Jamal Murray had been very inconsistent. There was no reason to think that all of a sudden he was going to become a consistent player. He ended up scoring 40 points and proved me wrong, and Denver rallies back from yet another double-digit deficit. That is the thing that is the ultimate acid on top of all this. The Clippers in the last 3 games had double-digit leads in the last 3 contests, and then just rolled over and did the walk of shame the rest of the game. Now, Nikola Jokic added a triple-double, so the Nuggets have placed the Clippers into submission, and they are ejected from the bubble, and that means the Denver Nuggets now advance to the Western Conference Finals, and now they become America's team, as everyone would like to see them knock off the pompous a-hole Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. But the better story, play your little savage. The better story is unfortunately in the losers' locker room. And so I know many of you, based on messages I looked at. Now, I turned my phone off, so I was not responding to text messages for several hours after the game. I did not look at Twitter. I posted, but I did not look. Better for my mental health. But I just peeked before the show, and I saw a lot of grave dancing on the people's team, right? Enjoy, right? Enjoy. You can overdose on your Schadenfreude and all that. And I am here. I am here to take my medicine. I am a man of integrity. I am a man of work ethic. I am a man that shows up, unlike all of the teams that I follow. They're all a bunch of choking dogs. Arf, 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 arf.
People taking pleasure in your pain.
All right, so let's just cut to the chase here. The question, what do you make of the latest Clipper collapse? Now, I've got Gummy Worms, Buster, and Cry Uncle. And we will combine all of these things together, and we will make a sad, humble pie. We are going to bake a sad, humble pie. Now, what a ridiculous way to end a season that had so much promise. There is no excuse. Now, later this hour, we will hear grown-ass men that make millions of dollars try to rationalize and justify going out and dropping a deuce on the Mickey Mouse logo there in Orlando. It is preposterous the way this thing finished up. And this was the most talented team in franchise history. In fact, forget just the Clippers, the entire NBA, from top to bottom, there is no roster you would rather have than the Clippers. Every pundit agreed. It was universal, right? The Clippers had everything you could possibly want to ascend to the very top of the mountain. And then they go out there and they put their seatbelt on, like the old broadcaster Ralph Lawler would say, and they collectively took a ride on the Vomit Comet as an entire team. They go up 3-1 against Denver. We all know what happened. 3-1, and yeah, that's how they do it. So now the Clippers have now gone 50 years without reaching the conference final, the longest streak of futility in American sport, going on right now. And they built up all of that insurance. And we do a lot of commercials for insurance on the radio. We love insurance. Geico's been great for us, a great sponsor over the years. Insurance is important. You got to have it, right? In fact, it's the law. Most places you have to have insurance. But if you get the insurance and it only lasts for so long, if you give it all away, right? The Clippers gave it all away. This is a consistent theme in these nuclear meltdowns. Now, Doc Rivers, his halftime adjustments included, he passed out little bags of gummy worms and they watched cartoons at halftime. I'm convinced that's what the Clippers did. And those gummy worms were laced with tranquilizers. And I guess since they're at Mickey Mouse's house, they might have slipped some Mickeys in there in the second half of the last three games. Game 5, a closeout game for the Clippers. They had a 16-point lead at one point. Denver outscored the Clips by 18 points in the second half. They shot 61% in the second half, which tells you the Clips were not playing any defense. The Clippers shot 34% in that game. Game 5, Clippers blew a 19-point lead. 19-point lead in a closeout game. Denver outscored the Clippers by 16 in the second half. They shot 61% again. Again, they shot 61%. The Clippers, 26%. And then the cherry on top of the crap all of Sunday, Game 7, another 12-point lead, and Denver outscores the Clippers 50-33, plus 17 in the second half. Plus 17 in the second half. The Clippers got outscored by 51 points in the last three games of the playoff series, and the Clippers shot less than 30%. They shot 28.9% in the second half. And so the Nuggets played with the poise and the confidence the Clippers were supposed to have. They were supposed to have all of those things, and they didn't bring it. They must have left it back in L.A. They didn't pack that in Orlando. Now, part B of this. I'm not going to go on and on and on, although it seems like I'm going on and on. This is an Occam's razor situation. The simplest answer is most often correct, certainly more than the more complicated explanation. Right? We're not talking about open heart surgery. We're talking about sports. And think of this as the great American total solar eclipse. Right? One team's stars, Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, did not have a solar eclipse. They rose up, played above their talent level. That's Jokic is a very good player. Jamal Murray did not have that reputation. Kawhi Leonard, who did, and Paul George, who really didn't, but he's an all-star level player, these guys went out there and played like a choking dog, each of them. Now, for reference, just to point out the eclipse, the great American total solar eclipse, and I'm not blowing smoke and whistling Dixie and all that, Jamal Murray in the second half, I don't care about any other game than the last three, because those were closeout games for the Clippers and elimination games for the Nuggets. In the second half of the last three games, Jamal Murray shot 52%. He shot 52%. He's a jump shooter who shot 52%. Nikola Jokic, who takes a lot of jump shots, he shot 44%. Now, that might not sound that impressive. However, when you look at the juxtaposition with the Clippers, who did suffer their stars, the solar eclipse, right? It's like watching the Harlem Globetrotters versus the Washington Generals in the last three games in the second half. Paul George, last three games, shot 26.6% from the floor. Kawhi Leonard, the face of the NBA over the last year, shot 26.6% from the floor. I had to do the math twice. They didn't take the same number of shots in the second half of these games, but they shot the same percentage. Paul George, PG-13, infected Kawhi Leonard. You know what Paul George's nickname should be? Forget PG-13. Paul George, no. He is like the rabbit, right? He's the type of player that either goes off or lays an egg, and he's laying a lot of eggs. Maybe he's more like a chicken, because chickens lay eggs all the time, right? That's why we have so many eggs in the world. Now, this is a Buster Douglas. This is a Buster Douglas level. Stunning upset. Remember, you might be too young to remember Mike Tyson. That was the biggest boxing upset in my life when Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson to win the undisputed heavyweight championship title of the world, and it was a stunner. I put this in that same basket. I put the Nuggets actually winning 4 out of 7 against the People's team in the same category. Now, the last word here. So the Clippers, what do you do now? Right? Well, you can't give up, right? Can't give up. So they are at the mercy of Kawhi Leonard. Anything the Clippers do from this point forward is going to be up to Kawhi Leonard. That's the way the NBA has done business. In order to get Kawhi to leave Toronto, the Clippers had to surrender pretty much a decade worth of first-round draft picks to Oklahoma City because that's how they picked up Paul George. They couldn't get Kawhi if Paul George didn't come because Kawhi, that's his hand-picked guy. He picked Paul George, which means Kawhi likely will never be a general manager when he's done playing. But Kawhi could have gotten almost anyone he wanted because the Clippers were offering, was it 5, 6, 7 first-round picks or something like that to make the trade happen. And not the shrewdest decision by Kawhi, but you've made your decision, and so Kawhi holds all the cards. It is imperative that they get him to stick around. Both the Claw and Playoff P can take a lifeboat after next season and float away from the good ship Clips and send them into the abyss after next year. Now, so my theory is that the Clippers should do whatever Kawhi wants, including cry uncle. And I'm not kidding here. If Kawhi Leonard wants Uncle Dennis to coach the team, I'm fine with that. Hire Uncle Dennis, all right? Because literally and figuratively, anyone would be a better option than Doc Rivers at this point. If I don't next NBA season turn on TNT and see Kevin Harlan and Doc Rivers calling a game on a Thursday night, then there's something wrong. Doc's future is with the boob tube. It's not in the NBA. You can go to the cemetery down the street from your house there, and take a shovel and a flashlight and start digging, okay? Start digging with your shovel, and you will find a skeleton that it has more ability to motivate a team and make in-game adjustments in the second half than Doc Rivers at this point. Heck, I'd rather have an urn filled with ashes coaching my team at this point. Now, Steve Ballmer is worth $70 million. He can buy every team in the NBA and have money left over. So there is no salary cap for coaches. So do what you have to do. Do what you have to do with your checking account. Make it happen. Now, if it's not Uncle Dennis, I'd make a phone call to who? Phil Jackson. He's in his mid-70s. Who the hell cares? I don't have a problem with age. Phil Jackson, the greatest coach of all time. You know Phil would love to stick it to the Lakers and bring him out. Say, Phil, we'll give you $30 million a year to coach this team. Give me 1 or 2 years. That's all I need. 1 or 2 years, I'm good. Bring in Phil Jackson. Call in the cavalry. Give him some stock options that Steve Ballmer has. Make it happen. Enough is enough is enough. I'm sick and tired of coming in here after these damn teams go out there and puke. It sucks.